This program is brought to you by Project Success Ministries International. The content, views, and opinion are the sole responsibility of Project Success.
Well, praise the Lord, and thank you for joining us once again for this edition of Project Success Taking It to the Streets. I'm your host, Apostle B.
And I'm your co-host, Senior Pastor Jolly.
And as always, my friends, we like to share with you in the beginning of the show the reason why we find the need to be here. And it is for no other reason other than the fact that we love God and that we want to share the gospel of Jesus Christ throughout the world. We feel a mandate to share what we've gone through, to share resources and information with the body of Christ. So for that reason, we're here today, and we're excited about another show. So we're going to ask Pastor to share with us what we can expect from this show.
Well, today we're going to be discussing again the book that we've been on for the past couple of shows, Reversing the Curse of Faith. And also, when we take it to the streets, we're going to be covering some of our outreach work, some of our progress in Africa, in Togo, Africa to be exact. But hey, I'm excited for this show. Hopefully by now you guys have picked up your very own copy of the book. It's definitely going to be life-changing if you use the tools that has been given unto you. So, hey, pick up your very own copy today. It is on our bookstore at projectsuccessministries.com. You can also find it on Amazon.com. So, I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. Without further ado, let's jump right in, Apostle.
Okay, let's do that. Last week we were talking about the various curses that was most common, and we said the word curse and was one of the most common ones, and we talked about the generational curses or the ancestral curses that we hear about so often. So we did discuss that a little bit, and we talked about the etiology of curses. In other words, where the curses came from, where they originated from. And we said, I think before we went to break last time, we said that curses came from God. And I know that some of you may be saying, curse is bad. How is it that they came from God? But they did come from God. And I want to read to you in the second chapter of this, the book of Reversing the Curse of Faith. I want to read to you what it says. It says, curses have been around for thousands of years, and their etiology or origin is with God himself. And then it goes on to say, let's look at the beginning of curses of mankind in the book of Genesis. And you'll find that in the 3rd chapter in the 15th verse, where it declares, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said this. These are the two curses, one to the woman and one to the man. And he said unto Adam, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat it all the days of thy life. It goes on to say, thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it was thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. And we hear that said a lot of times at funerals. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Because that's where we originated from. It was a curse. In the beginning, death was not to be a part of mankind, of the plan of God. Everything that we see that is bad is a result of the fall of man. As a result of the sin that occurred right there. With Adam and Eve. Is a result of the sin. And as a result of that, sin multiplied like it does now. But curses originally came from God. God cursed the woman and he cursed the man for the disobedient or sinful act. And so when we talk about curses, they've been around. They've been around for a while, a long, long time, even dating all the way back to when they started, when God cursed mankind. We saw it. We read it. We can read it for ourselves. Go to Genesis, as I said, 3rd chapter, 15th verse. We read from the 15th to the 17th verse, somewhere around there. And I just wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about that. Where did curses come from? And in the book, it's talking about how God pronounced these curses on Adam and Eve. And so we know that we are our ancestors of Adam and Eve. So what was cursed way back then in the garden, we still feel the after effects. It was never God's plan for man to work. He said, but because you were disobedient, because you listened to the woman, he said, because you listened to, and you were deceived by her, because you allowed that, then now you're going to have to work. You're going to have to get your food by the sweat of your brows. Like we have to go out and work all day long. Sometimes 8-16 hours so that we can put food on the table. That was not God's original plan.
We got to pay taxes.
We got to pay taxes. We got all that stuff. That was not a curse back then, but it was a result of the curse. That all of these great things that God intended for us originally, a part of his original plan, now was distorted. It was, it was kind of like derailed, so to speak. So, we wanted to bring out, the fact that these generations, because one of the curses, the two curses that we talked about that was most common, God spoke these curses. He told them how they would be cursed. And, word curses, God spoke that curse. Did he not? That's what he said. He said, listen, this is what's going to happen to you as a result of your disobedient act. So he spoke the curse. And because the man and woman was cursed, curses was a part of our spiritual genetic makeup. Do that make sense? You have genetics, just part of your fiber. Sin became a part of our fiber. It was a part of our makeup. Now, we disobeyed God. So now the tendency to disobey God is there. And along with it, curses. So, and it's all different kinds of curses. Now, the good news is there is deliverance from those of us that have experienced curses in our life. I need to share additional with that, Pastor.
Well, just to touch on what you said about curses being a part of our genetic makeup, because God is so powerful and how he spoke this world and all the living beings into existence. When he, and I'm not going to get into like evolution and all that stuff and all that, because I don't, the Big Bang Theory and, all that. But when God speaks a word, scientifically, there is a chemical reaction. When God spoke that his spirit wouldn't be with man long, and how we are now, through the fall of man, we are now vulnerable to death, the chemical balance that would have allowed our bodies not to age and die. There was a change, just like you said. Genetically, there was a change. Spiritually, there was a change. When God speaks, it's going to happen. But there is a reaction to what he says, because God, what people want to say, that mankind invented algebra and trigonometry and geometry. God is the true genius. He's just allowed man to peek into that knowledge of knowing how to explain numbers and arithmetic and algorithms and all of this. God is the true genius. He's the true idealist.
Yes,
So, where I'm going, there is a chemical or a physical reaction to God's word. So when Apostle here said there was a genetic reaction, there was something that happened to our genetics, to our spirit, when God spoke that curse.
yes.
It changed how we think, how we behave, what thoughts are able to enter our spirit, what thoughts are able to enter, because there were blocks put in place. There were certain spiritual blocks, there were certain physical blocks that were put in place when he created us, when that first covenant, that relationship was created with the attributes that he gave us, the abilities he gave us, the ability to name every animal on earth, the knowledge that we contain.
Made in his image.
Yes, we have to remember that the first humans were approximately 15 feet tall. They were not small. We were large, powerful, knowledgeable beings. And what that curse, through generation and generation and misbreeding and Nephilims mating with humans and all of these things, even after the Great Flood and all of that, it caused the effects of his curse to affect how we are today, who we are today. So, as it relates to those to those word curses, the origination of them, yes, God did that. He spoke the first curse on mankind because, they say curiosity killed the cat. Everybody loves to blame Eve, but the dominion, the commandment was given to Adam. And it came from the fall of man. I don't want to take up all your time, but that's what I have to. That's my viewpoint of what you said.
Yes, absolutely. It was great. Really, really great information. And just wanted to say, that somebody may be thinking, well, then if we are able to be delivered from these curses, then why aren't we delivered from, some of the original curses? God's original curses stand. Let me say that. Now our curses that has been passed down through generations, and spoken curses and incantations and spells and hexes and potions and all this stuff that comes from the devil is always defeated with the power of God. Period. So he's defeated. But what God spoke as a curse, when he said in his word that we were going to conceive. Women were going to conceive in, with pain. Some form of pain. We all can contest that, those of us that are mothers and that has had children. Initially, that wasn't the case. That wasn't how it's supposed to be. But because of the curse now, you see the monthly things happening, every month with all females. It doesn't matter if you're a female, born female, it's going to happen. And also, that curse of the pain that comes along with it. The pain of us now not having to worry about how we were going to provide for ourselves, because God provided for us. He came, every day we was provided for. But because of the curse, now man has to work. So, hold your thought. I think this is a good time to just take it to the streets, and we'll be right back. Don't you go nowhere. We're going to come back and dissect some more about these curses. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, and welcome back. Just wanted to say before we get back into our word about our projects that we have going on in Africa. As you can see that we're preparing to start our clinic. I think on last week we shared that with you, that we would appreciate any support, any financial support, any support spiritually in terms of praying for us, any volunteering that you want to do, any type of support that you can give to us will be greatly appreciated. Once again, we're going to need, some funding so that we can buy medicines for the various communities there and open up our clinic. We certainly need monies to pay our staff, and we need monies to buy the equipment that we need, the labs and so forth. So whatever you can do, if God says so, if he gives you the go ahead and he gives you the green light, then pray about being obedient to his voice and blessing us, with a seed of any amount. But if you do decide to send an amount of $20 or more, we want to send you a series that we're doing on outreach. There's a CD that's included, I think, 2 CDs and a book. And so we want to send that to you free of charge, just for your support for what we're doing. We're not a very large ministry. We don't have all of these large resources and all the things that we would love to be able to give you all of those things and send all those things to you. But we have to give what we got, and we're willing to give something. We want to put back into the ground some type of seed. And so we want to do that. We want to sow the seed for the book that we have on outreach, and it gives you some great scriptures, gives you some guidance, it gives you something to think about if you're thinking about going into ministry. So I just wanted to say that. And the CDs is really talking about really just encouraging you to continue to do what God has said, regardless of whatever opposition that may come your way, or how you may be feeling, or whatever the situation is. It's just encouraging you to continue to do what God has called you to do outreach-wise. All right, so let's jump right back into our lesson. We were talking about the 3 main curses, the 3 curses that God imposed on mankind back in the Garden of Eden. And we said that was the etiology of curses. That was the origin of them. That's where they originated from. They originated from God. God originally cursed man. And that's how we were exposed to curses. Initially, or originally, curses was not a part of our life. God had everything planned for us. He said that he made us in his image and in his likeness. We had the capacity to do all that we needed to do for him. We had the capacity to name all the animals in the world. We were able to do that because we were made in his image and in his likeness. And when sin came on the scene, this is what we see now. The downfall of man as a result of sin. And so the three main curses that we've already talked about, and I like to refer to them, I like to refer to these curses as permanent curses. Because some people may say, well, we can be delivered from curses. So why can't we be delivered from the curses that God imposed on man? That's not a part of what we can be delivered from. How many know that we cannot be delivered from God? God is our creator. He made mankind. He created us. And listen, it's not up for discussion. No, it is not. God imposed those curses, and they're permanent curses. There's not a woman, and sometimes grace will be on our side. You remember, because God loves us, and he knows how much we can bear, how much our bodies can bear. So some women, you may know, women that may say, I didn't have a pain, but one thing they did have, they had the monthly thing, and they had the curse originated, like it did with all women.
Contractions.
Yes, you felt something. There was something that was out of the ordinary about your body because it had to be. It had conceived, and now it had to birth a whole body, a whole human being. So yes, you went through those labor pains, or you went through something as it relates to this curse. Originally, that was not the plan. So that's what I call a permanent curse, because it's not up for debate. It's not up for debate. It's what God said was going to happen. And it has happened since the time of the curse. Then the same with man. When he cursed man, and he said, now you're going to have to work. You're going to have to, provide for yourself. I had provided everything for you. Now you're going to have to provide for yourself. You're going to have to sweat. The sweat of your brow. You're going to have to really hit it. Some people say, I got to go out there and hit it. I got to go out there and make it happen. Huh? See, they're talking about, I got to go and work a job. They got to go and work now for what they get. Originally, it wasn't God's plan. Everything was provided for us. And so after the fall, now we got to work. The third one that I always like to include, this one is so important that we understand. And it's the curse of death. Because initially, there was not to be any death. We was never going to die. God didn't want to, he created us to have fellowship with him. He created us because he loved us, and he wanted to have a relationship with us. He wanted to be partners in everything that we did. He wanted to glorify us, and he wanted to see us happy, and he wanted to prosper us. He created us for that reason, and for us to glorify him and to praise him and to magnify his name. So he created us for us to have that type of relationship. But when we sinned, then death came into the picture. Not just a physical death, but a spiritual death. Not just a spiritual death, but a physical death. Now our days are numbered. Said he gives 70. It's 70 years. And then, there was a time that he said, okay, well, you know what, let's look at 120 years. God, timing is in his hand. We know that he's promised us certain days. He's promised us certain things about our lives that can take place while we're living in earth. Good things that can happen. He can prolong our life. He can extend our life. He can bless our life. But that curse of death, nobody escapes.
Still there.
Nobody escapes that. We will die. It's appointed man. We're going to die. Once to die, we're going to die. So, because of that curse, not only will we experience a physical death, but now we got to deal with the spirit of death. Premature death. Lingering around and trying to take us out before our time. It unleashed all kinds of spirits, like it unleashed curses that happened, in that family, in the original family of Adam and Eve. We saw the first death, the first murder. Hey, stealing, covenants. I mean, all of that, jealousy, all of that ugliness that is still plaguing mankind today. So curses, we need to understand them. You know, and we do understand now, we saw it in our own Bibles, that it did originate from God. God cursed mankind initially with those three main curses. Now when we talk about, and maybe, I don't know that we'll have time to do that this time, but we certainly want to talk about God, the curse that when he cursed Eve, because we'll see a little later on, you know, about some other things that he said to Eve and what that he said to Adam that we can see prevalent in our lives today. We can see that that's something that the aftermath, we're still experiencing it. We still, you know, we're still dealing with that all of these many years later. So curses, when people say they're not real, you know, we beg to differ with them. Just take them straight to the Bible. You know, it's not a word, you know, that well, yeah, he could have meant that, he could have meant it. It says that he cursed them. He cursed them. God cursed them. And so those permanent curses we can't get from under. But good news, friends. Good news. God's original plan, he's never gave up on it. What he did is he sent Jesus. He sent his son so that we can have an opportunity to get it right. And in saying that, I think we're going to need to take another break before I unleash Pastor. He's going to tell us some good stuff. So let's take another break and we'll come right back and pick up where we left off after this word from our announcer.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Project Success Ministries presents Taking It to the Streets. Join us next week for part 3 of Reversing the Curses of Faith. We look forward to seeing you again. May God bless you. Keep you as our prayer.